Fantastic. Well, welcome everybody. I'm Paige Sharp, the Deputy Director Programs at the Indiana Arts Commission, and I am actually the Program Manager for Lifelong Arts Indiana for arts organizations. And I'm here with my colleague Stephanie Haynes. She is all things lifelong arts. She piloted our creative aging initiative and spearheaded the effort to develop a partnership with the Family and Social Services Agency to expand the program. And then we secured funding from a national source in order to be able to do this program that we're excited to share with you today. Stephanie is going to be leading you through information about what creative aging is and what that looks like with her experience with Lifelong Arts Indiana. And then I will go over the main program details, and then we will do the traditional Q&A at the end. But please feel free, as you think of questions, be sure to put them in the chat box. I don't know if you're like me, but I think of a question and then 2 seconds later I get distracted by something else and I forgot to put it in and I don't remember what it is. So don't hesitate to throw it in there. We will definitely want to get to all of your questions by the end. So I am going to go ahead and usher it over to Stephanie Haynes to add any additional information about her and then to get the presentation started.
No, just want to say welcome everyone. Stephanie Haynes, Arts Education and Accessibility Program Manager at the Indiana Arts Commission. Yeah, excited to see this expansion for our many of our good friends here in the arts organization community that we can connect you in with our creative aging work. So excited to see this program get started. I'm going to talk a little bit about creative aging in general. So I don't know about you guys, but it's a fairly new term to me. And although it may seem obvious, we're going to spend a little bit of time here at the top talking about what the Indiana Arts Commission sees as creative aging practice, and specifically with the Lifelong Arts Program, how we drill down within creative aging to a very specific model. So creative aging, kind of by definition, is the practice of engaging older adults, 55 plus, sometimes we say 65 plus. For us, it's not a hard age on there. It really depends on who you're partnering with and how that's defined, but 55 plus. So the practice of engaging older adults in participatory, professionally run arts programs with a focus on social engagement and skills mastery. So that's our definition of creative aging, with the skills mastery and social engagement. But generally speaking, engaging older adults with the power of the arts is a good way to define creative aging. Next one. Go ahead and yeah. So for us, what creative aging is and is not, it's experiences in the arts. So sometimes I give this presentation to non-arts folks, so I have to explain we're talking about learning art skills, and that can be any art form. Next. These are arts programs that are designed for older adults specifically, okay? We're not just taking what we normally would do for young people who are learning art forms and dropping it on top of older adults. The work that we're doing, and I would say nationally accepted, to say that creative aging is specifically designed for older adults. It may be similar to arts education, and when we're looking for organizations to do this work, a really good indicator to us that you're poised for the work is that you're doing arts education for young people already. But this will be something that you newly design, or is designed specifically for older adults. And through the training, research, and best practices we're going to share with you guys through the program, you'll learn on how to design the program for older adults. But experiences are learning the art skills designed for older adults, and often uses the expertise of a professional artist. Again, when I give this presentation to non-arts people, I just want to emphasize that we really encourage thinking of bringing in an outside professional artist to lead this work and not a local volunteer. Okay, and then also just mentioning that we're not talking about art therapy. Go ahead and do the next slide. art therapy is a wonderful thing. It's a medical intervention. It's a clinical modality. That is not what we're talking about. We do not need to hire in arts therapists to do this work. We are talking about work delivered by artists and professional artists and arts administrators for older adults in the community without having any sort of medical, you know, connections to it. This is art that is good for you, but not necessarily therapy, right? So it's not casual crafts, like I said, not led by volunteers that maybe aren't qualified, but it's not art therapy either. I think in the middle, like what we deliver for young people often is with professional artists and teaching them how to do the arts. Okay, so there are many versions of creative aging. We work with John Kay out of Traditional Arts Indiana at IU, for example, and he has many models that he goes out around the state and does, including show and tell programs, and he'll get together a little social club of quilters. And he's got these different modalities to engage folks in arts, in creative aging. That is really fantastic work that he's doing. This work that we're doing at the Indiana Arts Commission with lifelong arts specifically follows the research of Dr. Cohen. There's one research study that is done on sequential learning models. So we are following that model for our lifelong arts work. And so this means, what we mean by sequential learning is there are multiple sessions that follow one another, that connect and build on one another. And they are hands-on. So you're learning to do something or make something, or you're learning a skill or an understanding that's new. It's not a lecture or performance-based programming. And there is a social emphasis. So when you design a best practice lifelong arts program, you're going to design in time that the participants share with one another, talk about what they're doing, or get critiques from one another, or whatever that might look like. But definitely we build in socialization, because that follows that best outcomes for the participants is to include a social component. And then we require that it's artist led, again, making sure we incorporate Indiana's great professional artists. Here's some examples that we have of our artist designed programs in the center here. This is a theater program led by Ms. Sandra Gay at Weatherspoon Presbyterian Church here in Indianapolis, and they do stage reading, they do theatrical work, and a little bit of movement. Next. In South Bend, this is Elizabeth Leishman, professional artist who designed a program based in dance. And here they're doing modified chair dances, but they did a whole range of tap, jazz, and ballet, different types of movement with modifications as needed. This is a ukulele club in Terre Haute at a specific facility. Not all of this creative aging work is done in what you might think of as quote unquote a nursing home. We do not stay inside of that box when it comes to this creative aging work. We really think outside, and there are tons of different, there's a wide spectrum of people on that 65 and plus community. It's almost hard to group them all together because there is so many different types of folks in that age range. And the age is pretty much the only thing they have in common sometimes. But some of the programs are in more like skilled nursing facilities or assisted living facilities. And this is one of those programs that's in a residential facility. And these folks started a ukulele club and actually continue to this day to meet regularly after the artist has left. And I think it was like an 8-week session they learned ukulele. Next slide. This is also in the Witherspoon Presbyterian Church here in Indy. They learned how to play the harps, and these folks had never touched the harp before. The artist designed a really nice program to take them from very beginner through to an improvisation performance at the end of, I don't know, maybe 6 weeks. And it was very successful. The participants felt real ownership over the program because they were able to perform at the end. Here's a steel drum band that we had in Indianapolis, also in a church venue. Next. And this is a class that was originally called Senior Portraits. The folks who participated painted portraits and learned skills in painting and portraiture, and also talked about ways they see themselves and others. And so this is down in New Albany. That's some of the programs. Oh, this is a ceramics class in Muncie. They learned the ceramic skills, how to make bowls and plates themselves. Went through the glazing process over a series of several weeks, obviously, and then at the end shared a meal together using the bowls and plates that they made, and a lot of time to socialize and storytell around that. Those programs that we all just described are through our artist focus program led by artists through a partnership with the Division of Aging at FSSA. That's not what the arts organization's partners with, but this is a large partner we have that helps us keep on track with our best practices. And that's all I have. Thanks.
Great, thank you, Stephanie. I do want to make a note that if you're an organization and you're not actually an arts organization and you work with older citizens a lot, Lifelong Arts Program that is funded by FSSA does have a provider component, and that has a funding opportunity there as well. So that's something that we will be sharing information out about hopefully in the next couple months, just depending on where we're at with that program. So, but let's talk about lifelong arts, specifically for arts organizations. I do want to highlight that the folks that are eligible for this program, among other things, the primary one is that the organization needs to be an arts organization. So, and it is both a funding and a training program, which is we're going to select 4 organizations because that's what we have funding for. We have an external funder. It's a national funder, the E.A. Michelson Foundation. And so they have very specific guidelines on what we could do. And we applied to get the funding. And we wanted to do 4 organizations. And specifically, we're also looking for those organizations who don't already do this work to learn how to do it, that are committed to doing creative aging programming for the long term. And we're looking at these organizations to serve as peer role models in the state. Ideally, our goal is long-term to expand the opportunity so that more arts organizations can come alongside to offer creative aging in their communities. We strongly believe in the potential and efficacy and the power of this type of programming to really provide meaningful impact out in the state. So we're excited to find 4 organizations to join us to spearhead this effort and establish programs. So it's up to $20,000. Again, you'll go through training like Stephanie just mentioned, and that will be virtual training to develop that program to establish that for the long term, and then share the results of that work with the field in 2 different strategies, and that's going to be virtually as well. We're looking for that to be shared out to the philanthropic community because we really want to see other folks fund this as well, like community foundations, and some already do, so that we expand the opportunities for organizations to access funding from multiple sources. So like I said, the purpose is to create field leaders and increase access to quality arts learning opportunities. And in terms of the steps, I want to be clear that the first process is to apply to participate in the program, and you would be designated to use up to $20,000. At this phase, it's really about demonstrating that you're a good match for this program and are committed to doing this work long term, and to have the capacity to do this work long term as well. Then step 2, once selected, those folks will form a cohort and we'll go through the training on best practices, like Stephanie was sharing a little bit earlier. Then the folks that are selected will go out and plan their program, and not something you guys are at all unfamiliar with. I'm sure you've all done programs in the past. We do look that looking for organizations to establish a partnership in their local area with an organization that serves older adults. To establish that partnership can be really high value in order to ensure participation. Once you develop that plan, you're going to submit it for staff and peers to review, and then they'll provide feedback, and then the plan will be revised, and then you do the implementation and then share those results out. With regard to that, submitting that plan, that's where you would also submit the budget. So the funding goes towards supporting your administrative costs to have an artist or program staff participate in the training, as well as getting together with their connected group to continue to learn from one another, right? It's really fun to learn from what other people are experiencing in their communities. You can learn from others, and we strongly feel that that's a very powerful model. And so funds can support that cost for staff to attend any and all of those meetings. But we would expect the majority of the budget would certainly go towards the program implementation, which is inclusive of administrative expenses, rental fees, all the traditional eligible expenses that you would see in the IAC's Arts Organization Support Program. So the best match for this program, like I said earlier, must be an arts organization. Oh, hold on, I got somebody that is in the waiting room and is going to ferry them into our meeting. Regularly offer arts educational opportunities. It doesn't have to be year-round, but a fairly consistent offering and educational opportunities. That's where there's an intention for people to specifically learn things. And it would, like, in terms of workshops and series of classes. The operational budget needs to be equal or greater than $100,000, and that's going to be measured by the most recently completed fiscal year of your organization from its profit and loss statement. So we're going to be looking at the operational end. The logic of that is because we want to make sure that organizations have the capacity to develop and implement the program on the long term. And we're also looking to establish providers of this work, right? So if you already have an established creative aging program, this program is not for you. So if you go into the application, and I'll show that to you here in a little bit, you'll notice that there's like a series of pre-screening questions. We're going to make sure that the organization is eligible before you go and deep dive into crafting these amazing narrative responses, and to later find out you're not eligible. So that's really important to us, that we want to respect your time. And we're also, as staff, once the applications are submitted, are going to do a pre-screening to ensure that the organization is indeed a good match before we move it to the panel for field professionals to review those applications. The panel is going to be scheduled for November 8th. That is in the guidelines. The time has not yet been selected, but we'll certainly keep those that apply in the know so that they could observe it should they wish to. And like any IEC public panel process, you are always welcome to request the comments on the application following the review. We will have selection priorities. This is important to note. We are really looking for broad geographic representation if we can, which means that we don't want all four of the peer leaders in this work to be in the northern part of the state or just the central part of the state. We want to make sure that we have that broader distribution, very traditional sort of methodology for the Indiana Arts Commission. And we're also looking to establish a diversity of artistic disciplines. Now, this is the evaluation criteria. There are long sentences, and there's also sort of sub-bullets. So it's a lot, but the reason we do this is to empower the panelists to really review the applications based upon the things that we're really looking for. Then, not surprising to you, arts education is an important ongoing part of the program services. the commitment to do this long term and having the capacity to do it. Experience collaborating, because we're looking for folks to collaborate with others in their community, just to really diversify that participation. And really that you can ensure that you have the staffing to be present at the training and be a part of that cohort regular meetings. As well as ability to tap in artists that can do this, be leaders in teaching these groups. That's pretty simple in the application. I think it's just a checkbox. So, and it has established committed history of serving underserved communities, people lacking access to arts program services due to isolated geographic location, income, age, race, ethnicity, cultural differences, disability, and or other circumstances. So it's a pretty broad net. If your organization is located in a rural area, that's great. That is certainly an underserved community that you're serving, but we definitely want to hear about others that you might be serving as well. It could be individuals with disabilities, could be low income, but we really want to hear what you're doing. And the organization has a strong commitment to inclusion, diversity, equity, and access, evident in the program services or maybe policies. Doesn't mean you have to be everything to everyone all the time. That is really impossible, but you're very intentional and thoughtful in how you're serving folks, so it's accessible. And these are pillars that we host as the Indiana Arts Commission, as well as the funder of whom we receive the funding to do this program. So I'm going to go ahead and stop sharing my screen for the PowerPoint, and then I'm going to go ahead and share my screen to look at the application. But let me get to the application tab first.
The question on the chat is, can it be therapy based? I think based on one of my explanation of what it's not is not art therapy. I would need to know a little bit more, Lindsay, to like completely answer your question, but I'm leaning towards no, just based on that question. Can it be therapy based? I guess if you happen to have a program with art therapy that you're comfortable with, and then it can expand, maybe, but generally no, we wouldn't look for you to go find an art therapist and provide clinical intervention with this. That's my basic question or answer.
Yeah, but we are happy to sidebar on some of these things because this is a new program and I love the arts. And this is one of my favorite things about the arts. We get curveball questions all the time. And for pilot programs, they can be quite vexing. So we'll need to investigate a little further, but we're always open to really understanding kind of what the outcomes are, what you're looking to achieve and things like that. So happy to sidebar at any time. Do not hesitate to reach out to me. And then if I need backup support, I will always reach out to Stephanie Haynes because she is the goddess of all things lifelong arts. So we can sort it out together. Any other questions before we move to the application? So I just kind of show you what we're looking at.
One more. If an organization is already in the planning stages for 2024 potential class series, what is the timeline of existing? Oh, we talked about this. What's established? What's an established creative aging program to have one?
Right, exactly. Well, if an organization is just starting to get out of the gate and create a program, I would not call that an established program. And it could be that you're just looking to start something, and I wouldn't disqualify an organization because of that. I think the question for you would be, would you be wanting to do this program and that program? Because that's an awful lot of creative aging at one time in terms of programming. So I would probably bring it back to the organization to think that through. In terms of the timeline, we're looking for really the folks will be selected and announcements in December, and then the cycle launching in January, then going through training, and then having the proposal that you developed would be deadline of May 10th of 2024, and the implementation of the project, the final report, is due about a year later. So I would I would look to you for that discernment on how is this going to align with your work, and is it going to be beyond capacity, and is it going to help? It might help even sort of share the storytelling of your commitment to this work without having an established program.
Agree. And I think the timeline is you have an idea for a creative aging program, but you haven't started yet. So if you haven't started before you apply to this, you haven't started. You don't have an established program going. But like Paige said, I would put in the application that is something you've been thinking about, because to us it demonstrates a commitment to the work on behalf of your organization. Yeah.
All right, well, I don't want to take too much time on the application, but I do want to sort of show it to you so you know what you're getting into.
Can you zoom in at all? Okay, there we go.
Yes, ma'am. Oh, yeah. I mean, I'm a blind. I love not having to use my reading glasses, particularly since the power is a little janky with these. Anyway, so if you are not familiar with the IEC grant system, welcome to the IEC grant system. Know that any of these bars are collapsible, which is fantastic because that way you can get rid of things that you don't want. Before you begin is always just general information about the program. It's got all your little groovy links that you need in order to just access the guidelines should you wish to. It's got the timeline and the criteria, and the click here, it also has the extended dance version of the criteria with all the bullet points, but that's also in the application, so that's nothing huge to worry about. But know that that's always available to you. We're not sure why, but the application ID that you would put in is in a separate thing all on its own, but it is what it is. And then as promised, there is an eligibility check. So as you can see, I can't get to the rest of the application without completing this eligibility check. Do I have operating income of $100,000 or more? I sure do. Am I an arts organization? Yes. Does it operate year round? I sure do. Have I been active for 3 years under a 501c3? Yes, yes, yes. Does your organization have an UEI number? If you do not have a UEI number, you will need to get one. And if you don't, I would recommend that you reach out to utilize this link to investigate how to do that. And if you have any trouble, you can reach out to Eric Ashby. He is our grants manager, and he is totally gifted at walking people through getting a UEI, which can be a little bit intense. It is a federal requirement. It is not a requirement we would traditionally ask our people to do. And does your organization regularly provide education? Yes. And yay, lo and behold, now I get the application, which is fantastic. Then we have some of these overview questions. Part of the logic system is just to be able to the discernment of eligibility and kind of just so we can export this data, understand who's applying. It'll take about 2 minutes to do. And then we have really the crux of the application, which is the narrative. And this is what the panelists are going to be really looking at. So it breaks down arts education in your organization. We've got the review criteria, including those sub-bullet points. And then basically you're just describe your organization and share how arts education is an important ongoing part of what you do. Make sure always to respond to the prompts, and it's always extremely helpful to evaluators if you follow the outline. So like 1, describe your organization, and put in a 2 and a 2A or whatever. Make it as easy as you can, recognizing that these folks are not at all familiar with your organization. Some of them will be out of state, so you'll need to be brief, but be clear. Commitment to the capacity. So be sharing why you're adding creative aging arts education to your portfolio. Like, how is it a benefit to you and your community? Like, is it a natural progression? the folks you're serving, or you're seeing a larger older population, you'd like to deepen that service. It's really just about making your case and how you'll sustain it. And then share about a successful collaboration that your organization has had with an external partner. Just within the last 2 years, you're just looking for evidence that this work is happening, and that both benefited from those efforts. And then sharing your experience working with underserved communities and at what level the organization is operating with inclusion, diversity, equity, and access. It could be policies, it could be intentional work towards specific individuals in the community or community groups or things of that nature. And that's it. That's really that's basically, that is the application. So I'm going to stop sharing and then address any questions, any other questions you guys might have. I'm gonna open my chat.
I'll just reiterate what Paige said in that this application is about your organization. The panelists are gonna wanna read about you, what you're already doing, and what your goals are for working with the older adult population. It's not about proposing a project at this time. That is something that comes later. We try to keep it simple. Paige did a good job, I think, at keeping it pretty simple.
Yeah, I think we would want to apply to improve what we were thinking about doing, not starting a second program. Okay, do you have a rough idea of what time commitment will be for the training cohort participation? So absolutely. In the guidelines, we outline it. We have there's going to be 3 training dates, and each of which is going to be 2 hours long. They're going to be virtual, and the dates are actually already articulated in the guidelines as March 10th, 11th, and 12th. We do not have the time specified. So it's something to consider with regard to ability to commit. And if that's a particularly, that's a super busy time of year, maybe this isn't for you either, but maybe it is. And in terms of the cohort, again, this is all going to be virtual as well. And we're only looking at quarterly meetings, of which likely will just last an hour. It's super fun to establish a peer network. We've been doing this type of programming for a while, and oftentimes at the conclusion of the program, they still want to get together because it's just really interesting and how much they can learn from one another. Other questions? Or any questions that you're asking that I've missed? It's pretty straightforward. Is it correct? Am I seeing anything new? Sapphire Theater.
Becca from the Art Center, is it correct that organizations who already have are not eligible? That's correct.
Yeah, we're looking to establish new programs, new initiatives within an arts organization. Just because there's has not been a lot of effort in this space. We have been building the bench of artists that are conversant in this work. We want to build the bench of arts organizations doing this work as well. I mean, the outcomes, the benefits to those that it serves are incredible and irrefutable. The research is really strong. The folks that participate in this program, incidentally, will be a part of a research effort that we will plan to distribute on the national level once we get those results. Did we get a copy of the PowerPoint to share with our organization? Absolutely. You will get a copy of the PowerPoint via a follow-up email that should also include a link to the recording as well. Are we required to partner with another entity, or can we work in-house? We are really wanting you to partner with an external entity, but it doesn't necessarily, it could be in the form of informing your effort. we
Yes,
would
well,
have to negotiate through that one.
if I can expand a little bit about the partnership. So the partnership is about connecting with other experts in your community. I would assume if you're applying for this and you think you're eligible, that you don't have an existing creative aging program, which means you probably don't have an existing older adults kind of expertise in-house, right? So by asking you to partner with another entity, it's often someone who brings something to the table you don't already have. Partnering with a senior center that has a staff of people that work exclusively with older adults, they're going to bring expertise to your planning and your program design, not only of generally about working with older adults, what time of day is best, how do you get transportation, those sorts of things, but they also know your community. So we're looking for you to partner with someone in your community, with people who know the older adults in your community and their unique challenges, whether if you're in rural Indiana and it is transportation, or you're in a place that's public transportation, how they navigate either of those situations. So the partnership is not about delivering the content. You can still use your art center, your museum, your facility as the delivery location. You could still use your own artists, your own art form and supplies and equipment. The partnership is more about making sure you're doing what you can to design a program that's best for the older adults in your community and finding the experts in your community to help you do that.
We also have another question. Will organizations have access to the network of artists that IAC has already established that through the creative aging programs, or is it expected that we will bring along our own staff teaching artists? Does that exclude us? Let's see. Wait a minute, another one came up at the same time I was reading and I got distracted, like curse of the squirrel. Or is expected that we bring our own staffing teaching artists to fulfill the program development? I'm going to say bringing your own staff and teachers to go through the training. It serves to just deepen the impact that we are able to have out in the state by creating more folks that understand how to do this work and do this work well, which I think is extremely important. Anything to add on that, Stephanie?
Well, we wouldn't exclude you if you say, oh, I always work with so and so to do this,
Right.
and they're one of your artists. Is that okay? Yeah, that's not, in my mind, that's not like double dipping or anything. You can use artists in your area, whether or not they are in our other creative aging programming. I wouldn't, at the same time, we're not forcing you to use only the artists that have been trained through our creative aging program. This is an opportunity to maybe train new people. And then when it comes time to deliver, if you want to hire a contract in an artist that has expertise, they're not excluded from the program.
Okay, so we offer what we call creative aging programming with Osher Lifelong Learning Institute. This is offered a few times a year and is viewed as their programming, not necessarily ours, as they promote it and we facilitate it. Does that exclude us from applying? So
take some thought, Cynthia.
Yeah, exactly. Like, I think we might need to sidebar on that one, because I think I would want to know a lot of things. Is it something that your organization puts on its website? Is it, if it facilitates it, is it hosting? Is it providing staff? I mean, at what level and depth and breadth? Because even though, it's viewed as their programming, maybe it's actually viewed as your programming. So we'd have to go through the discernment of determining at what level it is an established creative aging programming. Is it sequential? How many sessions are there? How long has it been around? Where are the folks actually attending? All those kind of things. So reach out to either actually just reach out to me and we'll just pull a call with Stephanie and I, and that way we can figure it out together. So great questions. I love it. Fantastic. Thank you, Stephanie. Other questions? Great. Well, we will go ahead and hang back for a few more minutes, and you're welcome to stay on if you have any questions. Otherwise, thank you so much for being here today and learning more about our program. We're excited about it, and we're looking forward to working with folks here in the near future. As always, reach out if you have any other additional questions. Thank you.